The Germans have a history of being watched. This old US listening station in Berlin was how the West kept tabs on East Germany. On the ground below, first the Nazis and then the Stasi in East Germany kept files on the population filled by informants. So since the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 and the decommissioning of ID checkpoints, Berliners have been fiercely protective of their privacy. What's changed is that a new threat has replaced the old. Police control the crowds in the aftermath of a terrorist attack. A truck has mowed down shoppers at a Christmas market in Berlin. 12 are killed and more than 50 injured. At this time, CCTV is still not widely used in public areas. But 3 months later, in March this year, the government passes new laws to extend their use, and the face recognition pilot was given the go-ahead. Despite the trial offering a white route that passengers can take to avoid the cameras, both the country's data commissioner and its top lawyers have expressed concern about Germany moving towards a surveillance state. No one is saying facial recognition couldn't help catch criminals, but the public doesn't seem to have been asked. As Germany goes to the polls this weekend, one member of the coalition who has been in power told me he wasn't consulted about the trial, and the technology hasn't been properly debated in Parliament.
It doesn't bring more security, it is just collecting data and more, and you don't know who, when, where this data may be used. It is a pill they try to give to the people which doesn't have any effect, because it doesn't solve the problems.
Proponents of the scheme point to the dip in crime on Berlin's metro system following the installation of CCTV back in 2011. We did ask both the German Interior Ministry and the police authorities in Berlin for an interview and to take a look at the technology, but both declined. So we asked a few travellers.
I don't trust this new development. Like, everybody should be tracked and everybody should be scanned by cameras.
They showed in TV that if you have a base cap or sunglasses that it doesn't work anymore, so maybe not so much. But anyway, if it catches one, we are very happy.
If it really shows that it will help, then I will be okay with this, in the hope that there is no misuse and now just collecting tracking data.
If those worries are widespread, it's not looking good. Questions still hang over whether the German police fabricated their records on the man behind December's terror attack to make them look good. And earlier this month, a Privacy International report said 21 EU member states, including Germany, are still unlawfully collecting and retaining personal data. Who's watching the watchers may be the key question if the technology proves its worth.
OK, well, first up, we are tracked by our phones every day anyway these days, aren't we? So what is the big concern around facial recognition?
Well, and with our phones, of course, we can possibly turn them off, or we could opt to carry a more basic model. So we do have some choices around that. And also it tends to be companies that collect the data. So when the state or the police require that information, they do so on a case-by-case basis. I think the concern here is that if we introduced facial recognition as we have CCTV, then there would be a very broad database, a searchable database, to find out where each person was and with whom whenever they were in public. OK, although to be fair, it is just a trial. This hasn't actually been released yet. No, absolutely. It is a trial just on those 250 volunteers and those members of the public that walk through the space where they're captured on camera. And you've been to another capital city where this technology is already being used by the police to look for real suspects, to find people that they're looking for. Yeah, here in London, where the most recent trials took place last month. Carnival time in Notting Hill. The tens of thousands who gather are monitored from above and by officers on the ground. But there are also facial recognition cameras here, and unlike in Berlin, the London trial isn't as visible to the public, and the officers are using it to spot real suspects. The Metropolitan Police declined to show us the technology or to give us an interview, so we spoke to a human rights expert who was invited by officers to witness what happened.
In the 10 minutes that I viewed facial recognition in action, I saw 2 misidentifications, and in fact both of them wrongly identified an innocent woman walking past as a wanted man from the police's database.
Right, so it didn't even get the gender right.
No.
And those are false positives, and the police concerned about that?
They weren't worried about that. However, they were running this for 4 days, and the police told us that they had made many false positives. The system had produced many false positives.
Silky says officers told her they'd made 1 correct match in the 4 days of use.
The leads who I met viewed this as a success. They, in their view, as long as they can prove that the software works, i.e. can make a positive match, even if it's making 40 incorrect matches, then it works. That's not a scientific approach, and there's no balance of proportionality, let alone a disregard for the civil liberties issues. To our view, that is not a success.
Some people will say that the technology needs to be tested in real-world circumstances, and this is what the police are doing in this situation. They have to test it, right? And this could be useful in the future.
We all have something to worry about when the police are using intrusive biometric surveillance powers that they don't have a legal basis to use and that they're doing largely in secret. That's a worry. But these kinds of surveillance tools present some really broad concerns, and to simply say, I have nothing to hide, therefore I have nothing to fear, is to unconditionally submit to powers of government that are unchecked. And that is to say, whichever flavour of government comes in, would we be happy with biometric surveillance on our streets? I don't think we would.
London's Metropolitan Police Service told us officers were on hand at the Notting Hill Carnival to answer any questions the public may have about the technology. Only those images which came up as a match to a wanted offender will be retained by the police. They confirmed there were 20 million images on the police national database. But they declined to comment on the effectiveness of the technology.
Well, that's slightly concerning, isn't it? Especially if the software really is that inaccurate. And I guess we haven't had any kind of public debate about whether this technology should be used yet.
No, not really. I mean, the police say that there will be a public consultation. We asked them how long we're going to wait for that, and they said that would happen in due course. So we checked parliamentary records, and although facial recognition has come up for debate within other bits of legislation around anti-terror laws, etc., there's never been any specific debate around the use of facial recognition in public in the UK.
Okay, lots to talk about in the future, unsurprisingly. Dan, thanks. And that's it for the shortcut of Click for this week. The full-length version is up on iPlayer for you to watch whenever you like. And don't forget, we live on Facebook and Twitter at BBC Click 2. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.